What do you think about the new German electronic ID card?
I think we have to have an ID card with electronic possibilities to identify oneself in the internet. I think that the development as a concept is absolutely right. But as I've heard that security issues appeared in the last days, in the last month, and that the ID card, the electronic ID card, got hacked like 24 hours after the first technical specifications were released, I think there is a problem, and there's a problem that security concepts which are used by the Bundesrepublik might not be that safe. I don't know why is that like that. I don't know if it's even possible to have an electronic ID card which is as safe as it has to be. But I think there should be put more effort in making these things safer, and to ask people who are normally not involved in business like that when a country gives out new ID cards. Maybe you should talk to the other side, like the black hat hackers, like the people who want to destroy that infrastructure, just to get known of the latest techniques in hacking them.
Do you think Germany goes too far with data protection if you look in how data is dealt with here as opposed to, let's say, the United States?
Yes, I do think that Germany goes too far with data protection. I think that the people who, Datenschützer, they're called in German, who claim to protect data for the public, who most of them didn't understand the digital age. The age of digital social networks. For example, StudiVZ, the once biggest network in Germany, had to fulfill such a big number of special laws that they couldn't develop features like Facebook could. That's one of the reasons they're located in Germany. They have to obey German law far more than Facebook has to. That's one of the reasons why they're now quite a bit smaller, and they just couldn't hold pace with Facebook's new features.
You had a very interesting point in your speech that showed the decrease over I think many years of the word personality and the increase in the word of identity. But would you say that these days, because of social networking, your personality defines your identity, especially if you think of people like Eric Schmidt from Google talking recently about how maybe we have to change our identity when we start working, or when younger people start working, because of the personality and the identity that they've already left out in their social networking.
That's a very difficult question because personality and identity, especially online, are mixed up. It's a sort of a mashing thing. Am I the person who I impersonate on Facebook, or is this me just being on Facebook? Is a question which from time to time gets answered differently. So I think you have to think of a concept, of a social concept itself, where your personality, which is shown online, is part of your identity. I don't particularly think there will be something like a Facebook ID card, but that's not far from the fantasy one could have, to cross the borders and not to show up any ID card, but to show the own Facebook account and online, and to identify oneself by using this Facebook account. So exactly that might be the answer to your question, how the personality which is shown online and the identity which you use to identify yourself online can coexist together.
If we talk about the individual's identity, one of the buzz phrases that we're starting to hear now from a corporate point of view is reputation management that is out there on the web because of relevance within social networks of what people think about specific topics. And here I'm thinking about just only last year with BP and their oil spill. What are your thoughts on that?
My first two reactions to online reputation are, I don't like it. I don't like the word, and it's very complicated. I start with the complicated part. Your reputation is hard to manage because there's so many places in the internet where just a damage of reputation can show up in a second and gets multiplicated millions of times. We have all seen examples, not only with BP, but other examples which were harder to understand because maybe they were wrong in the first place when they damaged the reputation of some small company. It happened like 1,000 times. I don't like online reputation as a word and in the technical sense because I think it's the wrong way. Online reputation management gives you the illusion, the word gives you the illusion you could control communication by which reputation is built up. You could control communication in the internet. And we've seen so many different moments in the last few months where it was totally clear that no one can control online communication. The WikiLeaks, by the way, if even the State Department can't control online communication, nobody can. So you constantly will have to deal with possible damages to your online reputation. And the way acting against it is the way you would think of at first as a person. That is to communicate oneself more transparent and more open, in a more open way. And another thing is not to do as many things which give other people reasons to hate you. That might seem naive, and it might be that it is naive, but in my opinion and my view of the world, most of the reputation damaging things are done by yourself, by the company whose reputation is damaged. And then when someone other points on it, not that might be the moment when the reputation is damaged. That point has been before, when the company, for example, did something wrong.
Could you expand on your point that you made in your speech? When we talk about secure identification, we should start to think of it less in terms of a technical concept and more in terms of a social concept.
I think you're just thinking too short when you just try to see online security and online identification in a technical way. That is because technical methods of securing online identity always can be hacked. I personally don't know if there's anything which is unhackable. I don't think it. I don't know it, but I don't think it. And if you keep in mind that with things like cloud computing, where it costs just $5 to get the biggest and fastest computer ever been made by man to work for you for some hours, then any technical thing, any technical encryption comes to its end, in my opinion. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of the cost of computing power. And the cost of computing power will drop again and again and on and on. So I think you have to have a concept which consists of a technical part and a social part if you want to have online identification in a secure way. Identification, I've given that example in my keynote, always has been a social thing. Identification comes from I see someone and yeah, that is Peter. That is Stephen. That is the guy I've worked with for 10 years. And that is a sort of quite safe social identification. It even has, it even exists in the law, at least in the German law. When a lawyer has to recognize you because he has to sign a contract, you have to show your ID. You don't have to show your ID when the lawyer knows you. In Germany, they say von Person bekannt, which might be known by person. And known by person is the strongest concept of identification that I know. And I think it's a nearly unhackable concept. Nearly. It might be socially hackable, but it's nearly unhackable as a concept, especially when you think of it in terms of social networking. Not just one person, but 2, 5, 700 persons who will identify someone they know. So if you keep in mind that there are people online at any given time who know one person who stands before you or who wants to just make some online shopping, then you could use this kind of social identification for a secure online identification. I don't know how, and it's not my job to develop these concepts, but these concepts lie there, and I think they're going to be used in the very next time.